Hello, this is Dr. Michael Greger coming to you live from my treadmill, as I do every month, to answer any questions you may have. For those of you unfamiliar with my work, every year I read through every issue of every English language nutrition journal in the world. So busy folks like you don't have to. I then compile all the most interesting, most groundbreaking, most practical findings and new videos and articles I upload nearly every day to my nonprofit site, NutritionFacts.org. Everything on the website is free. There are no ads, no corporate sponsorship, not selling anything, just put up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother, whose own life was saved with evidence-based nutrition. Let us get to your questions. If I do not get to all your questions today, I'm also doing an Instagram live Q&A session today, 5 p.m. with the one and only Tracy McWhorter. I'm super excited about that. Hope you'll join me for that as well, even if you do get your question answered right now. But let us get your questions. First one on the list is from Maria, who says, does having dark circles of the eyes have anything to do with nutrition? Any specific foods? I don't think so. That's just pooling of blood. Not getting enough sleep can do it. I don't think anything in nutrition, anything you eat, is going to matter on that. In that case, all right. Next up is from Nate. Hey, what would be the best way to get all your B vitamins in a complex without taking a supplement? You don't. By eating food. So eat some whole grains. You get all your B vitamins, of course, with the exception of B12. So eat whole foods. Nail my daily dozen. You get everything you need, with the exception of vitamin D if you're not getting adequate sunshine, and vitamin B12. Critically important for anyone eating a healthy diet. Next up, Maria's back saying, what about Artemisia? Can it help fight COVID-19? I very much doubt it's ever been put to the test, so I would not know. Next up, from Ella. Hello. Mom has a mass in her cecum. That's part of the colon. She's been sick, not eating much. Yeah. Trying to help with plant-based foods. Any plants she should avoid? Most importantly, and I presume this is what's happening, and that's how they figured out she had a mass in her cecum. They need to find out what is going on. So presumably she's gone in for a biopsy, et cetera, but I would certainly encourage her. She cannot treat the cause until she knows what indeed is going on. In terms of foods she should avoid, again, it would depend on what's going on. If there's some kind of a stricture, if the mass is such that it's closing off part of the intestinal outlet, then she may want to stay. She may not want to eat big, raw kale salads or something, for fear of creating a phytobezor, which is a mass of undigested fibrous food, which normally most people, if you chew well enough, it just passes right through you perfectly fine. Actually, it does all sorts of good things. But if you have some kind of problem, so if you've had like intestinal surgery and there might be some kind of stricture, some kind of narrowing, or a mass, something like this, you might have to be concerned about that. But again, most important thing, figuring out what is going on. Next up on the list, Francisco says, what would be the healthiest type of whole grain bread? Should I bake it myself? Okay, well, the problem with bread, the reason it's a yellow light food, a processed plant food, is because it requires salt. And we don't want to add salt to anything. But if you were going to do a bread, then the healthiest type of bread would be something like pumpernickel, because it actually has whole intact rye berries, rye groats in there. So ideally, that's how we should eat all our grains, in whole intact form. So wheat berries or rye berries or oat groats, barley groats. That's the best way. And so the fact that something like a pumpernickel may have actually not just all whole grains, but actually have some groats in there, that's the way to go. So ideally we should deflour our diet. We shouldn't eat flour foods. There's ways to make sprouted grain breads and You can also buy sprouted grains. That'd be healthier. But best way to eat your grains is in whole, intact form. But if you were going to buy a bread, you want to get the lowest sodium, at least to be 100% whole grain. But again, and put something really healthy on it if you're going to eat it. All right. Next up, hello from Pennsylvania from Cindy. Hello, Cindy. Oh, now the questions are coming in so fast. It's just like roulette, and I'll just press the next one, see what happens. And next one is, what are my thoughts on air fryers from Stephanie? I've got one right there. If I could probably twist the camera, but now Instapots is a type of electric pressure cooker. Now it has a model where it has an air fryer attached, so you don't have to buy two things. I love my air fryer. What do I use it for? Purple sweet potato fries. Take some purple sweet potatoes, spritz a little lime juice or malt vinegar or on them, and then shake them with some blue cornmeal and sage and smoked paprika and garlic and onion powder. What else do I put in it? Some chipotle powder. And maybe some nutritional yeast, and then put in the air fryer 10 minutes, and it turns off automatically, and then dip them in a salt-free ketchup, and you are good to go. You can also make some tempeh wings with them. You just take some tempeh, and you can steam and microwave it, and then chop it up. And sweet potato for the sweet potato fries, I microwave the sweet potatoes first. I'm sort of soft inside, because then, So it's kind of, you pre-cook them in the microwave and then chop them up, dredge them, air fry them. You can also make my tempeh wings, same thing. Cook the tempeh, chop it up. And I can use like a flax egg mixture. You take ground flax seeds, you add water. I think it's like a teaspoon of ground flax seeds, 2.5 teaspoons of water. Mix it up till it gets all mucousy. And then put the tempeh in that, cook tempeh in that. Then you dredge it in the same kind of mixture or anything else you want. So you have like a nice batter consistency. Air fry them up, dip them in some low salt hot sauce, and you are good to go. Okay, hope I made everyone hungry. Next up, Benny says H. H, back to you, Benny. Martin said, should people with Hashimoto's? Oh, check it out. I've got a webinar coming up in March. In fact, my next webinar, unless I have one in February, I don't think so. My next webinar is early March. In fact, you'll be the first to know. We haven't even announced this yet. Clear your calendar for March. Where is it? Oh, I thought it was March. Yes, March 5th, Friday, March 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to do a webinar on the best diets for hypothyroidism, natural treatment for Hashimoto's. So definitely check that out. And no, you do not have to avoid cruciferous vegetables. You just have to make sure if you have iodine deficiency, hypothyroidism, that you get sufficient iodine, because there are these goitrogenic compounds in flax seeds, cruciferous vegetables, and other healthy foods that can interfere with the uptake of iodine. But that's only a problem for people with marginal iodine status. You just have to get enough iodine. And in that webinar, I'll talk about the healthiest natural sources of iodine as well. Check it out. And where would you find all the details? By subscribing to the free Nutrition Facts web newsletter. Let me see if I have a thing for it. Oh, check it out. Ta-da! Be sure to subscribe to NutritionFacts.org, free newsletter by going to NutritionFacts.org/subscribe, and you'll get everything you need. All right, let's find out. Next question is from Almendra. What if we rely on salt? What if we rely on salt? It's like a puzzle. What if we rely on salt to obtain our iodine? Well, iodized salt is a good source of iodine, but it's at the same time a bad source of iodine because it has salt in it. It has sodium. which is the worst thing about humanity's diet, according to the Global Burden of Disease study, killing more people than anything else in our diet. The other four things that are killing us in humanity's diet is inadequate fruit consumption, inadequate vegetable consumption, inadequate nut and seed consumption, and inadequate whole grain consumption. So those are all things we're not getting enough of. But the only thing we're in the top 5 that we're getting too much of is sodium. So if you are going to put table salt, use iodized salt, not natural sea salt, not Himalayan bullshit salt. Just use iodized salt. Ideally, shouldn't use shouldn't use salt at all. And you should get your iodine from the healthiest source, which is sea vegetables like nori sheets you can chew on as a snack. Sprinkle some wakame or arme or dulse on foods, and find a way to incorporate sea vegetables into your diet. That's the healthiest source. Lots of other wonderful trace minerals as well. All right, Jim asks, from North Carolina, optimum amount of black cumin seeds daily. Ooh, well, it depends what you're trying to do, right? Black cumin seeds have all sorts of benefits, and it's different doses for those benefits. In terms of weight loss, I believe the recommendation in How Not to Diet was a 1/4 teaspoon a day, which, if you don't like the taste, you can fit into 2 like veggie caps, 00 veggie caps. Just take them like a pill form. But it's kind of like black pepper. If you like the taste of black pepper, you like the taste of black cumin, you can just grind it in a black pepper grinder onto your foods. Okay. Rose. That's the name of one of my dogs. Why are the last 10 pounds so hard to lose? Wow, I've lost 112 pounds. Congratulations, Rose. Thank you so much. Oh, it's because of me. That's very sweet. That's fantastic. It's not because of me. It's because of you. You kicked total tush. And I'm happy to be a source of information and potentially motivation. But you did it. Fantastic. Okay, last 10 pounds. Well, you are... typically, the reason people slow down is because then they start eating more like they used to eat, which led them to gain so much weight in the first place. So people actually start, so the reason people kind of plateau on diets is actually slowly going off their diet, even if they're continuing to lose weight. But I've really fascinating videos on this. But if you're continuing to eat healthy, then you're slowing down. Well, you just may be reaching that kind of that balance point, which your ins on a healthy diet match your outs, in which case you should be at a healthy weight. If you're not at a healthy weight, then you need to eat even healthier. And so some people, most people, for the average BMI, people eating plant-based is perfect, right down where we want it to be, but it's a bell curve such that some people fall on either side. Same thing with blood pressure and cholesterol. Average cholesterol, average blood pressure, those eating plant-based, absolutely perfect, optimal, just where we want it to be, but it's a bell curve. Some people do even better. Some people don't even have to eat that healthy and nail perfection. Other people have to do even more. And so it's just eating foods in as whole a form as possible, and you may have to lower calorie density or not lose any weight at all if you are already down at the BMI that you should be at. Bryce. That sounds like Bryce is replying to somebody else. Laura. Oh, name of my mom. I've been plant-based for 7 years, but LDL's never been under 70. Had a heart CT scan and a CSE 0. Very good. That's a coronary calcium, coronary artery calcium score. Was 0, meaning that they didn't find any evidence of kind of old calcified plaque. Do I still need to worry about your LDL level? Yes, because your arteries may look good now, but they may not look good in the future. We should continue to try to eat as healthy as possible to drive our LDL down. You say, wait a second, I'm telling you, I'm eating plant-based. I'm not eating the trans fats, saturated fats, and dietary cholesterol that increase your LDL cholesterol. Okay, well, the next step is to then add foods that actively draw cholesterol from the system, like the portfolio diet food. So just Google portfolio diet, and it's like adding foods to your diet, like viscous soluble fiber foods, like slimy foods, okra, oatmeal, eggplant, these kind of things pull cholesterol from your body actively to get you down to a primary prevention target of 70 for your LDL cholesterol. Do you still have to worry about it? Yes, you still have to worry about it. Everybody does. We all got to get it down. Okay, Rhonda. Oh, another thing is if you haven't reached your target weight, having excess abdominal obesity, that visceral fat can increase your LDL cholesterol regardless of what you eat, because you have that fat flooding into your bloodstream, spilling over from your fat cells, even if none of it's going into your mouth, and that can increase your LDL cholesterol. So, and you can get your thyroid tested. You have an underactive thyroid gland that can increase your cholesterol regardless of what you eat. So there's some secondary or non-dietary causes of hypercholesterolemia in addition. Usually it's just need to eat healthier. Okay. Hibiscus tea. Yummy. Okay. Oh, speaking of hibiscus tea, Rhonda saying if you have very low blood pressure, you still need to avoid salt. And fantastic question. I actually have a video about this. The reason no one's seen this video, it's like an ancient video from like 2010. Yeah. So salt does all sorts of horrible things to your body, besides raise your blood pressure. That's the biggest concern, raise your blood pressure. Also increase your risk of stomach cancer, and that's other bad things. So yes, you still need to avoid salt, even though your blood pressure is good. And there's some people whose salt actually doesn't affect their blood pressure. They still need to avoid salt because it hurts your arteries in other ways. Oh, fantastic question, though. And I've got videos about it if you are skeptical and you want to learn more. As you should be. Okay, next up, Raphael. What advice for inflammatory, irritable bowel syndrome? I have some IBS videos coming out. Stay tuned. Okay. Ooh, Reswitha. What is my advice? Oh, for ADHD. What do you say about lysine arginine against herpes? Okay, so ADHD, I think the only video I have on ADHD is talking about the role of exercise. Very effective as drugs in reducing ADHD symptoms. Problem is it's temporary, so you got to put spurts of exercise throughout the day. But that was the only kind of lifestyle medicine intervention that I've seen. But that was a while ago. There might be more out there. I will keep an eye out. And then what about lysine arginine ratios for herpes outbreaks? I know people take lysine supplements when they have outbreaks of like a cold sore, but does it actually work? That's something I've not looked into, but I'm sure there's lots of science around there. If you type in Cochrane, Cochrane, and lysine, it's probably all you'd have to put into PubMed. There will likely be a Cochrane review on the use of lysine for herpes outbreaks. That's kind of a evidence-based center that puts out. Used to be kind of the gold standard for evidence-based medicine. They've lost a little credibility recently, but it's still a good source for material. Or for, if you're not going to dive deep, you just want kind of spoiler alert, latest thought answer. Okay, Joseph says, how can I raise my heart rate variability? Oh my God, I've got a video on that. I'm talking about breathing exercises that can do it. What's that video called? If you just type in breath to NutritionFacts.org, it should come up. Or breathe. Okay, Maria is back saying she buys tea bags because I want to have it all as whole foods. I open the bags, drink the tea. Eat the leaves. Great. I think teas is okay to drink, not to consume its content. What awesome questions. So I have a video talking about how you want to be careful about green tea sourced from China. Only relatively recently did they get rid of leaded gasoline. And so there's a lot of lead in the soil. and the tea plantations in China. Not a problem if you're just brewing tea, because the lead stays in the leaves, does not leach into the water very effectively. So if you're just brewing your tea, it may not be an issue. But if you're actually eating the leaves, meaning you're drinking matcha tea, which is powdered green tea leaves, or putting your tea in a smoothie, or what it sounds like you're doing here, then indeed I would encourage you to get your green tea from Japan. And I have special recommendations for pregnant women and children in terms of where to source which kind of teas. And you would find that video and that cool chart that I made on NutritionFacts.org. Great question. I love all these high-level questions, because most of the day, I put all my interviews onto one day every month. I call my catch-up day. And that's today. And so the rest of the month, I can just deep dive into the literature, which is what I've been doing for the new book. And so most of the day today, I'm spending, with just like mainstream, outlets, and they're like, tell me, are apples any good, or something like, these really basic questions. So it's great to come on these Q&As, because I get like the graduate level questions. All right, Lexi, in fact, Lexi Squared asks, he or she is 30, he or she or they is 30, and have just flared up, eczema out of nowhere. Best advice, check out my eczema videos on NutritionFacts.org. I talk about treating eczema, also known as atopic dermatitis, both from the outside, meaning what you can use topically to put on it, and healing it from the inside out, what you can eat to both prevent and treat eczema. Check it out. Okay, Guvint says, is it likely to cure? Another Hashimoto's. That's why I'm doing my thyroid webinar. One of those common questions I get. And I'm like, damn it, I'm going to find a natural treatment for Hashimoto's. And I finally did. And we're going to do a webinar on it. But if you have so scarred up your thyroid that you need to take thyroid replacement therapy, eating healthy is unlikely to cure it. You'll probably be on thyroid medication your whole life. However, there are things you can do to lower your dose and decrease those autoantibodies that are attacking your poor thyroid if it hasn't been completely scarred. And that's what I'll be going into in the webinar. Okay. That's funny. Farcod is asking, where am I just making up these questions? Where is this coming from? I'm pulling questions simultaneously from Facebook and from YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, some of these questions are from Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, some of these are coming from YouTube. And you can watch either way. Okay, Hadi asks, my name is Maria. Oh, okay. Arthritis, takes corticosteroids. Really like to stop using it. I take probiotics. What to get? What? So I think the question is, I have arthritis. I'm on steroids to suppress my immune system. So it sounds like it's an autoimmune or inflammatory arthritis. So maybe something like rheumatoid. I would find out from your doctor, if you don't know, what kind of arthritis you have, and then type that into NutritionFacts.org, and all my recommendations come up. And I know, for example, for rheumatoid arthritis, there are interventions that have been proven as effectively as corticosteroids. So hopefully you will be able to have your doctor wean yourself off of them. Not good to be on them long term, or even short term, frankly, but they can be absolute miracle drugs if nothing else helps. Okay, Sev901 asks, do I have any advice for AIH? Liver inflammation. What does that stand for? Autoimmune, I don't know. I'm 30, I've already switched to a vegan diet 6 months ago. Well, they have lots of videos on liver inflammation. Mostly in terms of fatty liver disease. Oatmeal, coffee, there's a number of things that decrease liver inflammation, but we want to treat the cause, and I'm not sure what condition you are referring to. And so, and whether or not there is some kind of lifestyle intervention that can treat the underlying cause, because that's obviously the ideal. Okay, Mango asks, gives some greetings from Germany. That's very sweet. How much? Oh, I've got a video on that. So how much flaxseed is too much flaxseed? So I have a whole series of videos on answering that question, talking about the cyanide content. That's the limiting factor. It's a fascinating story. I forget what the final the final upper limit is, but certainly my daily dose recommendation for a tablespoon a day is fine. And the question is, what about 2 tablespoons a day? Would that be yeah? And the question is, and the answer is, you got to watch the video. I forget. I'm sure that's probably fine, but watch the video, because that was when I had the science in front of me. That's the nice thing about doing videos. I don't have to remember anything because it's all right there. Okay, intuitive eating thoughts, asks Almendra. I've looked a little bit when I was writing How Not to Die. I looked at the intuitive eating stuff, and I was not impressed with literature. It just didn't seem to have much of a basis in science. I mean, the whole concept is kind of let your body, let your body guide you, which in many ways is useful. But your body was not made for the modern world. Your body, your brain, your biology was finely tuned in for us to be perfect cave people. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, now there's things like donuts. There were no donuts back then, so our cravings for calories, our cravings for salt and sugar and oil, concentrated sources of calories and sodium, kept us alive back then, because there's no KFC on the savannah. And so craving for every little scrap of salt kept us alive. Now, that same biology is killing us. And so if we listen to our bodies, we would just be eating big tubs of ice cream and frosting all day long, which would not be a good thing for us. Okay. Mickey asks, if I hover around a BMI 24-25 with a whole food plant-based diet following the daily dosing, is it futile to strive to get a better BMI? Would the set point theory force too much restriction to make that happen? Okay. So that's kind of technically, that's a normal BMI, but not an ideal BMI. Now we don't have data on people who've actually eaten healthy who follow that BMI. We do have data showing that people, that a lower BMI is indeed better in terms of longevity, and disease risk, but these were people eating kind of regular diets. And, the question is, if you're eating healthy, does it really kind of matter? And until we know more, I'm going to say yes. We really should try to get our BMIs into optimal range, just like we should get our cholesterol into optimal range and blood pressure into optimal range, until we know more. And so, yes, I think you should continue to strive, and that would be continuing to making sure we're cutting out processed foods and lowering the calorie density of our diet and eating closer to what we might have in the times before the processed food industry was born. And so there's all sorts of satiety tips and all my 21 tweaks and stuff. So if you do the daily dose and you're still not there, then on the app, you switch over to weight loss mode and you try to incorporate some of those 21 tweaks to drive body fat loss even further. And unfortunately, my God, we are running out of time. He said, wait a second, getting my question answered. Well, there's another option today. I'm doing a live Instagram Q&A today with the one and only Tracy McQuarter. Very excited. We can both answer your questions. 5 p.m. Eastern on the Nutrition Facts Instagram page. We just surpassed 1 million followers on Instagram. Really excited to do a live Instagram today. in a couple hours. I hope to see you then.